right, so we are recording.
There we
How
go.
you doing, Randolph?
I'm good. I'm doing really well. I've been taking a little bit of a break from the content, so I've just been watching movies with my wife and taking a bit of a step back. But I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Um, yeah, things have been really interesting in the Pokemon community, as well as my actual personal life with
Yeah,
I moved not too long ago and kind of starting a new job. So,
nice. Well,
but
congrats.
it's been a good time. Yeah. So, I guess for my audience, if you can just describe a little bit about who you are, your channel, the
Yeah.
different sort of things you've got going on in the Pokemon world, and a little bit of your background in Pokemon.
Yeah, so I guess my name's Randolph. Well, that's my stage name. My actual name's Andrew. Andrew Shane. That's what I go by in when I speak to my mother. But yeah, I'm a musician first and foremost. That's what I always dreamt of being. That's what I went to school for. That's what I started my career on YouTube as. And I guess as time went on, I started making other videos, vlogs, regular lifestyle videos, and then um, like I think September, November time, 2019, I started actually making Pokemon content. And that's probably how most of you watching this, and I know yourself know me as. So that's my history with the channel. I have been a fan of Pokemon my entire life. I think, music and Pokemon, literally, I know that sounds weird because, Pokemon is a franchise or it's a brand or a product, but music and Pokemon have been two big things in my life for as long as I can remember. I think I got into the community. Well, I got into the hobby when I was like 6 years old. We had a neighbor actually growing up who owned a Pokemon store or a Pokemon club. So every single Tuesday he would hold an event where we'd all go play the card game. We would play Nintendo. They'd do tournaments, and also he'd have packs. Just sell packs. And mainly it was like an after school club for parents to just throw their kids when they went and did other stuff. But it was for us. It was the Pokemon club. So we had a neighbor who ran all that stuff. So I was 6 years old. My mom, I'm not sure how old she was, but my brother's a lot older than I am. So my sister's like 9 years older than me. I think my brother's like 11 years older. Then my other brother is, I don't know actually how many, but like 15 odd years older than me. So growing up, they were big into Pokemon. My brother cut to the card game. My elder brother actually played the Pokemon game, I think, before anyone did. He had Pokemon Green, the Japanese version, because he was learning Japanese at the time. So he had the Japanese Green. So my mum would just buy boxes from our neighbor. Most people would go and buy packs, right, from the local store or the Pokemon club, because we lived next door, and because my mum was like me. She's a bit of she likes to get the best things, right? So if she heard she could get boxes instead of getting packs, then she would do it. So she would just buy boxes and boxes and boxes and just help us put the cards into binders, and help them organize them. So from a young age, I was introduced to the card, to the Pokemon card game, and then as I started growing up, as years went on, I was more inclined into the video game. So two brothers, right? Well, my oldest brother's into the games, and then my the other older brother is into the cards. So I had two different avenues. But I think when you're a kid, you look at these cards, right, and you think that they're kind of cool, but I want to play the game. I want to play my Game Boy. I don't want to sit here like looking at cardboard. I want to play games. So that was my mentality as a kid. And in fact, I used to have binders, which I've still got now, that my mum used to help me store. She would sleeve them up properly, would make sure they're legit and make sure everything's nice. But I would want to take them out and play with them in the tournaments, So funny story on my channel, I tell it all the time. I had the Typhlosion 17 from Neo Genesis in first edition. And I would always want to take that card out and put it into my deck. And my mum would always say, no, you can't. You have to leave it in the binder. She was a collector, and I was a player at the time. And I've got a little insert in my binder now. She'd say to me, every time you take a card out, write down what that card is, put it in the binder, and then when you come back, replace it straight away. And funnily enough, I still have that little piece of paper now with my 6 years old self just writes Typhlosion on it. So she was big on collecting, and so was my neighbors. And I think at the time then, no one was really doing that. We had binders and stuff, but I think most people would have, like, if you look back now, the cards are all messed up, right? Because they were in tins, they weren't sleeved right, etc. So I think I have my mum and my neighbors to thank for that. But the rest of my Pokemon journey was just mainly the games. So I would play the games a lot. My brother used to take me to tournaments, regionals, nationals to play the game. Back then it was very different than it is now. It was much easier, I think, as well. But yeah, then since then it's just been, it was all about games. I would open some packs here and then. I would go to the store, buy some, open them, but I would never really properly look into it. However, I think 2016, you know, with evolutions and Pokemon Go, I think that's, you know, we look at COVID now as being one of the entry points for a lot of people. But I think the first, at least what I can remember, big boom in Pokemon was the Pokemon Go craze and evolutions, etc. So I came back into it then. And at that point, I was watching, you know, SM Pratt, I was watching Gem Mint Pokemon, Pokemon Master 556, is it? I would watch people like this and really enjoy that, you know, that style of the, you know, that side of the hobby, you know. So I immediately went back to my binders to see what I could find. And then I was like, what? Like, I didn't know these were so rare, you know. I had my first edition Neo Genesis set. I had like Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge first edition. I had a base set, right? And my Charizard in the base set was shadowless. And I couldn't believe it because obviously growing up, we have no idea what shadowless is. Like, well, I mean, at least I didn't. And the funny story with that is my brother ended up getting the Charizard. I ended up getting the Charizard before my brother did. So he took my Charizard, and then when he finally packed one, he gave that to me. But lo and behold, all these many years later, the one he gave to me was shadowless. So that was unlucky for him. Yeah, it's a crazy story. I spoke about it with him the other day, actually. So yeah, 2016, I kind of come back into it. I start looking into my cards. I get them graded. Back then, you just send your cards to get graded, and 45 days they come back on the standard service, which is unreal now. And I kind of got into it then in terms of the actual like you know, grading side of things, the value side of things, the money aspect into Pokemon, and that really excited me, you know, getting my cards graded, seeing if I've got anything rare. I'll buy cards on eBay, and I remember at the time then a lot of the people I was speaking to in the community were telling me, you know, it's so hard to find, you know, mint cards on eBay. But back then, compared to now, it wasn't, you know. And if that's what they were saying now, imagine what some people would feel today. I remember buying a Mewtwo Gold Star and a Trico Gold Star together for £95, which I think is probably like $120, $30. And they were advertised as mint, and I was like, oh, I bet they're lying. So I checked them when I got them, graded them. The Mewtwo got a 10, and the Trico got a 9. And you know that right now is just, you know, a once in a lifetime thing you'd really find now. Whereas back then it would happen all the time. But I think even then people would tell you that's so rare to find. So I would really go heavily into that aspect of Pokemon, and then during this time, I'm still making content. So I'm still making music. I'm still making YouTube videos, but I would never do Pokemon. I wanted to. I actually made the Pokerand name and the Pokerand, you know, brand a long time ago in 2016, but I never actually executed it in terms of YouTube. I wanted to. I made a channel, but I didn't want to do it because I thought people would laugh at me because I'm trying to be a rapper. I'm trying to be a musician, and then I'm doing Pokemon on the side. I was like, what? I didn't have the courage to do that. But I always wanted to. And then years went by. I went on tour with I got a good friend, KSI. He's like a huge YouTuber and musician now, doing really great things. So we made an album together, went on tour with him. And then, you know, I was just feeling a little bit down, like 2019 time. I was feeling a little bit down with my work and my music. And I was like, you know what, I'm trying to open some more packs, right? I'm opening some more packs. So I bought some Hidden Fates and I pulled the Charizard. And I think at that point then I was like, I should have filmed that. That would have been amazing to film and put on the channel. So as soon as I did that, the next lot of Hidden Fates I opened, I filmed it and I posted it on my second channel, which was Randolph Games at the time. And that's now changed into Randolph Pokemon. And that was the start of this channel that most people probably know me from on here. And since then I've just been creating content. So yeah, I'm not sure if that was too detailed for you or not detailed enough, but that was kind of like an overview of the background, you know, into where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the feeling when I first was looking for my childhood collection, hoping that there'd be shadowless cards because I couldn't remember if I had,
you
know, regular base set or shadowless, and finding a couple shadowless was exciting.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yeah, I remember just the feeling of looking through that collection, and I found my collection. When I was looking for my collection, I wasn't interested in getting back into Pokemon. I was actually interested in. I also had a big sports card collection too, and I was interested in looking up the values of everything to figure out how much money I could make off of them and if I wanted to sell them. And I remember finding my Pokemon card collection and just being like, I love these. Like it hit me after 15 years of like not seeing my cards. That feeling, and that was about 3.5 years ago. And and then similar to you, I found like SM Pratt and Rudy from Alpha Investment was a big thing for me.
Oh yeah. He's a great watch, right? It's just entertaining. Whether you like him or don't like him, I think you just watch Rudy.
yeah. So one thing that's interesting, I think, is thinking about like, are there differences in the UK and America, both in terms of when we were kids and how people collected or played, and then also like what are some of the differences now? So I think it'd be interesting to go into that. Then I think we're going to get into some conversation around like influencer ethics, particularly around, we've talked about booster box breaks, what's going on there, your experience with it. And then we're also going to talk about sort of your store, what you're looking to do in Pokemon, and kind of finish the conversation there, I think.
Yeah, sounds good.
But to sort of start with it, so you mentioned that for you, you were mainly a player when you were a kid, less interested in collecting. I didn't play at all, actually, and none of my friends, we didn't play. We all just kind of collected, and we also were kind of like a little bit of like entrepreneur, like little kid entrepreneurs, and we were trying to sell and trade. And so I started early, I would say, in that I'm doing now. Do you feel like most people in the UK, and you obviously can't speak for everyone in the UK, but particularly as a kid, but do you feel like there were more players, more collectors, a mix? What was it like when you were a kid from your memory?
I think my instance may be different from others. Like you say, I can't speak about everyone, but because we had this Pokemon club, and we had this like this actual place we would go to kind of like trade and play. It was like a Pokemon League, what we know now. You know how you play the actual official sanctioned events. It was similar to that. Like my neighbor was a Pokemon professor. We called him, Professor. He had the big white cloak, everything. So I think, So that club was like a place where we would play. But then at school, it would be trading. No one would play at school. I was always like the kid that plays Pokemon. They were just the kids that collect Pokemon, and they played the game. But if anyone ever had like if anyone was stuck in the game, like Fire Red, if they don't know where to go, they would come to me, and I'd help them, how to get to the next stage, and give the tea to the person blocking the road. So I think the Pokemon's a weird one, right? I think the way Pokemon is right now is not the cause of so many issues in the hobby, but the fact that it's a game, but it also is such a fun collectible, but also such an expensive collectible. It's hard to differentiate. Whereas sports, I'm starting to get into sports now, probably at the wrong time. But there's no game in sports, right? You just collect your favorite players and you trade your favorite players. So it's such a different market and such a different collectible. Whereas in Pokemon, you have to always make sure that players can access the hobby because it's a game, right? And you can't price those people out of the hobby ever because that it wouldn't exist then. So I think to answer your question, I think it always has been more of a collectible and more of a tradable asset or cardboard or a hobby. But I think people do play it. People do play it, and people have always enjoyed playing it. For me, at the Pokemon Club, but then at school, I didn't really see anyone playing with it. I'm not sure if you have anything to say about that, but.
Yeah, I mean that was my impression, like in the States, at least where I was. Again, it's one little child's memory and not what was going on everywhere. But my experience was there were a few kids who played, but more kids were playing Magic, at least in my school, and were collecting Pokemon. And so it tended to be Magic and then some Yu-Gi-Oh! People were playing.
Yeah, we played Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot. Like we played Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I think if you compare those two, Magic, we didn't play Magic. I didn't even know what it was growing up. But in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, everyone would play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then trade Pokemon, like the binders. If you get a pack of Pokemon, you trade. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! You get a pack and put it straight into your deck. And even growing up now, if I go back into my childhood boxes, I'll find more Yu-Gi-Oh! Sleeved, as in like ready for a deck where I'd see more Pokemon, in tins, in binders, organized. I
think Pokemon lends itself so naturally to collecting because when you play the video games, which was like, equally as important, if not more important for most of us, honestly. You're collecting Pokemon in the game and you're trying to get all
that's the whole premise, right? That's the whole idea of the game. The goal is to fill the Pokedex, and they had different versions, red and blue. On red, you could only get a certain amount of Pokemon. On blue, you could get the others. So you have to trade the link cable. That's what I think Pokemon, if you look at it on a not to do with the cards, if you look at it combined with everything, it's always been about trading. Even Pokemon Go, it's a social game. So I think that's the main core value, I think, is to try and get that shared, social aspect out there.
Yeah. So I think that that it just lends so naturally to, and kind of that transforming into adding like shinies into the games and tracking down the shinies. And it so corresponds to what's fun to collect in the card hobby and track down and this sort of thing. So I think it probably attracts people who like collecting at a higher level. Like Pokemon might be more appealing than some other IP because people like that collecting element. And so it's natural that you'd have lots and lots of adult collectors who have whatever the collecting gene kind of come back into space and pick it back up. How do you feel like today in terms of differences between the UK and America, things that maybe you guys have to deal with that we don't have to deal with here, and how that affects the collecting, the buying, the selling, all that sort of stuff there?
Yeah, I think it's totally different in the UK than it is in the US. I think we spoke about this before as well. I think in terms of content creators as well, there's not many that are the larger collectors from the UK. So I think when I speak about a lot of things, I'm trying to like speak to my audience in the UK and then also to the wider audience too. It's totally different. So for those who are unaware, you know, in the UK, and this is something I learned from the business side of point of view. Now I've got the store, etc. We have one distributor in the UK, official. There are many others, but there's only one officially sanctioned from Pokemon. You know, Pokemon will tell you this is our only one. Others will get from America or elsewhere, but there's one official. Whereas, you know, you look in America, there's 30, 40, maybe even more than that. I don't even know. I think it's totally different. The culture here is different. The pricing is different. The pricing is different at the core. You know, even versus the currency. You know, Great British Pound, pound sterling versus the US dollar. Like, we'll have products that are, you know, $60. £60, and you'll have yours at $60. But obviously, those two currencies are not. They're not the same. They're not worth the same. But the RRP or the market, the MSR. That's what's the American one? MSRP, right? That's the American
MSRP,
one.
Yeah.
We have RRP, so like recommended retail price. The recommended retail price will be the same, but the currencies are worth completely different amounts. So even already there's a miscommunication in value, right? Then in terms of sourcing the product, like I said, we've got one distributor.
With the UK being higher, pretty much like always. Like I every time I look, it's always higher. So you would know more than me, but yeah. When you do the conversion rate, it just is always higher.
Yeah, I mean, we have people in the store who don't understand currency. So someone from America will buy something, and I look at the order like, why have you done this? Because the shipping's obviously really high because it has to go across to America. But then I'll email someone, and someone will say, "Oh, I just didn't understand the currency. They just did the calculation wrong." And I'm like, you got to do the calculation, you know. Or someone will buy stuff thinking it's really cheap on our store, but then not realize about the currency. So yeah, first of all, the currency is different. Then you have the supply issue. So we have one distributor. You guys have plenty. So when we get allocated, we get hit really hard. I think for Shining Fates, you know, myself at the store, we had a 2.5% allocation on the ETVs. So we ordered 2,000. I'll be open with that. We ordered 2,000 Shining Fates ETVs, and we got 50, which is a really small number to get. I mean, we have to deal with that. And then I know a lot of other stores were the same. Some even got less than we did. But then you have certain stores here who get their product from America. So they'll get their product from a distributor in America. I think we're working on doing this now because, you know, it's hard to rely on this one UK distributor because, you know, if they can't get it, then you have nothing. So it's people try and get things from elsewhere. So that's a difference as well because, you know, I think allocations hit America hard as well. But I was hearing some stores getting hit by like a 40% allocation for Shining Fates and then being distraught about that. Whereas we're sat over here with a 2% thinking, well, I'd love 40%. Yeah, that sounds amazing to us. And
how
I think
much do the distributors like charge you and charge other people? What's the like? How much do you guys pay to get the product directly from distributors?
So I think we pay. Yeah. So for an ETB, we pay around, I think it's around 27 to 28 pounds GBP, and then obviously you have to pay VAT on top of that. So you have to pay their added tax. America's different with the way you guys do it with sales tax, but we'll pay that. Obviously, as a company like we can recoup that. You know, that'll go against our VAT return when we actually, you know, pay our actual sales tax. But yeah, so I think it's like £27, then plus 20%. So we'll pay plus 20% on top of that. So it's like £35 or something like that. For a Hidden Fates or for a Shining Fates ETV. Then for the booster boxes, we pay around, it depends because we pay £77, and then if you buy bulk, you'll get a discount. So the discount usually works out, obviously with Pokemon, you usually buy bulk anyway. So it works at around £70. And then plus again, the VAT on top of that. So it's like £84 that I'll pay. Obviously you claim that back, you claim the VAT back. But yeah, and immediately there, I don't know what you guys know from distributors, but I found out, oh, that's really high.
Really high compared to
yeah. That's why many stores here will then go to the US. They'll go to the US, and instead of having to deal with the distributor that we use to then get it from the US, they'll put it into their warehouse and they'll add the price on. They'll just go and get someone else to do it for cheaper. They'll put it on their own boat. You can get stock from someone in America, put it on a ship, take 30 days, and it's going to be much cheaper than what we pay from the distributor. Obviously, then you don't have the luxury of getting it on the day of a release. But many people like to do that. They'll use the main distributor, then they'll use another one to spread it out. So that's a big difference as well. I mean, when I first started the store, which we'll get into later, maybe in more detail, but when I first started the store, I looked at the profit you would make at the old price. I mean, now things are quite inflated in the hobby, especially with booster boxes. It was like a £1 profit that these companies would get. I worked out because they were selling it for like £85, £86, but then I was buying it for 84 with VAT, and I was like, how are they operating? How are they doing this? Which is why I think, obviously, the hobby's not healthy right now, but I think the booster box market actually is healthy for stores out there, because I don't know how anyone can survive, any store can survive on an 80 on a £1 profit per box. It just seems bizarre to me. I don't even know why someone would bother doing that. But then obviously the answer for the big stores is they buy so much stuff, right? So they'll buy everything from the distributor. They'll buy Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Dragon Ball, and they'll just sit it in a warehouse, and then they'll play the long game. Whereas for a local game store or a brick and mortar store, they can't really afford to do that, because they start with, they don't start with $5 million dollar investments. They have to start small, as we do, too. So yeah, that's the UK on the distribution side. And then also on the secondary market, I think the secondary market is even worse, because if I'm dealing with someone and I'm trying to buy a booster box, I have to, from the UK, the price will be so much more. And I'm sure you'll see this as well in terms of raw cards, loose cards, single cards. It's so much more here. And when you speak to the sellers, the excuse is always that, well, if you buy it from America where it's cheaper, you then have to pay import tax on top of that. So that's their excuse. And that is true. If I buy a box from you, or buy a box from, I got a box from Pokemon Radar recently, I have to pay the import tax on that. I can fraud, which a lot of people do. A lot of people just fraud it, and they'll just mark it down as a gift or mark it low to get away from import tax. But obviously, I don't do that, because it is illegal, and especially running a store, we do everything legit. So that excuse there of it being more money because you have to pay import tax, it is warranted, I guess, because that is true. But I think people like to use that as a way to go even higher. So
I think one thing that's so tricky is it's hard to have I think we need a lot more transparency in the Pokemon hobby, and and I think that will help people feel more comfortable and aware of what they're buying, why the person they're buying from is charging that much, where that's coming from. I think what's so tricky is that there are all these other types of fees. And there are all these, it's complicated math problem. And so it's hard to know how much you're making on a booster box. It's hard to know how much an online breaker, and we're going to talk about that, is making on a booster box. And so I do think on my channel, I'm going to try and maybe make some videos where we try to break it down a little bit for people to see. Yeah. Because I think that so much of the irritation is coming from that lack of transparency. And then people can more gauge, do we feel like this seller over here is making more than I'm comfortable with, and you're comfortable with, whoever's watching is comfortable with. And then, like any free market, you should make the decision not to buy from them.
Exactly.
But when there's no transparency, I think it's hard to tell, is this an outrageous price that they're basically making way more than they need to keep their business going, or and are pushing it as high as they possibly can go, or even though the price seems very high, maybe the margin isn't even that much, because maybe they're not getting as much product as they used to for like an LGS. Maybe they have a lot of employees, they have costs to keep the store open. And so because they're not getting as much product, they have to sell a certain amount in order to pay down those costs. And so they do have to charge you they are going to charge you the prices that you see on eBay or close to it.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then you're basically telling them, that either you're basically saying to them that I think it's difficult to argue that people shouldn't sell things as high as they possibly can. I think that's, although I agree with that, and it would be nice if that was true, people, the majority of people are going to try to sell things as high as they can in most situations. And I think it's more about how do we educate everyone so that they can make better decisions that will bring the prices down. I think we have uneducated buyers and very savvy educated sellers in a lot of cases. And it's creating a dynamic where I think people are spending more for things than they need to if they were more patient, if they understood how it worked a little bit better, and or I think in many cases probably weren't addicted to gambling or addicted to I think there's an addiction issue going on too. And that's where it gets scary, and I get these stories. Part of it's because I'm a therapist, but it's also the type of content I make. I get lots of stories from people about people who've spent themselves like way into debt this year. Were promised things by certain people that these cards were going to go up or that they were going to be able to grade them and sell them. And now PSA shut down and they can't grade them and they can't recoup their money fast enough. And so they're really leveraged on debt. So they have to sell at a loss. Like these types of like bad stories. And it's kind of like, well, the person who was selling to them didn't explain any of that risk. They just told them that you're going to make a lot of money and this is great. And there's plenty of meat left on the bone for you, and I think that certainly a huge portion of that is on the buyer. And in my personal opinion, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, because with your own money, you first and foremost have to be responsible for your own money. And you're the one, you have free choice. Unless someone is stealing your money from you directly, you have free choice in those purchases. But there are, I think, sellers who use a lot of tactics, manipulative, I would say even predatory tactics to get people to spend past probably what the seller thinks they should probably, like what probably isn't best for them. And instead of saying that or talking about that, they kind of push it pretty far or take full advantage of it. And then that has all been happening while in the background, it's sort of a ton of events have all coalesced to create this highest demand ever, lowest supply in a long time moment. So it's really a powder keg. So what is your take on all of that? And then specifically, how do you address those concerns in your own business? What have you been doing? And maybe also how is your thinking? Because I'm sure, and just like my thinking has evolved over time on these types of issues. I think we're evolving as a hobby because there's a lot of growing pains happening right now. How do we address that? How do you address that type of thing?
Yeah, I think one thing you spoke about there is the educating side of it, right? So someone like yourself, someone like myself, we've been around for a long time and we're heavily researched into the hobby. So I think we are responsible to educate people, and especially content creators, and especially on the larger scale. There are a lot of content creators out there right now who actually don't know what they're doing. And some of the box breakers on the big scale, they don't understand what's going on and they don't even know the values. They just see, they'll see Logan do it. They want to emulate that. And they don't understand about the dangers that the buyer has. Because why would they? Because, and I do understand from their point of view, like there are Call of Duty professionals out there who play, for big money in pro esports. You have streamers out there that make, thousands. From their point of view, all they do is they find a box. Someone will sell them a box. Someone will be, oh, hey, I've got a box. You can do this in your stream. You can make a little bit of money, but also it's a really fun thing to do. So they'll go and open this box, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know the value. Even them themselves, we hear a lot of people speak about people giving incorrect PSA 10 values. They don't even know. They've never graded a car in their lives. They don't know like the percentage of cards you get that are 9s, that are 10s, that are 8s. They have no idea. So I think half of the issue that's going on right now is ignorance in a sense, but I don't even think it's ignorance that comes from a place of harm. I think it's just, they just don't know, and they never have been in the hobby.
I would argue though, that it is irresponsible to sell your audience things that you don't know about.
I agree with that as well. Yeah.
So I would say and I think that's really interesting and probably true, that it's not like they're intentionally, scamming their audience and or putting their audience in a difficult situation. But I think influencers and someone like you, and I've talked to some of your fans who just love you so much and they trust you so much, right? They really like you and trust you. And so I think that when you're in that type of position and you're selling product or selling anything directly to your audience, you have a responsibility to know everything about it so that you can describe all of the risks, the pros and cons to your audience. And I think that because really what was happening in my mind was it was sort of like legalized gambling. And people, I think in a lot of cases were buying into these things, certainly some of them with the knowledge of I'm doing this for the shout out. And I think that's okay. Personally, I think that it hurts the hobby in some ways, unfortunately. We can talk about how it hurts the hobby. But from an ethical standpoint, it's like the business transaction is actually more about getting the shout out than it is getting the prize. And they're aware of why they're buying in. But I think in other cases, there was, particularly during the Logan Paul craze, right around there were just these big streamers opening things and talking about crazy prices. And there was probably a month period where it was really out of control. And then I noticed even the streamers who were doing it starting to say, we don't know anything about this, disclaiming, there was more disclaimers. And then I think you had people like Moist Critical, for example, who didn't sell his packs, realized it was crazy. Like I really respected him and how he did this, because he's like, he makes jokes about like how I'm a junkie. He's making probably like $40,000, $50,000 a month, which is spendable income. Wanted to do this and wasn't, and was kind of joking around with the cards. And I think that I also get how people are angry at someone like that, because it's like you're kind of making, like, you have so much money that these boxes we've been working for or towards our like whole life, you are now coming in and immediately tripling the price because you don't know the history and you're just buying it at randomly high prices. But I think that, and I get that. And that's where these things get complicated, but he doesn't know that. And so I think, and part of the whole Caribou situation, I think too, is, and why I think it was such a great video, is it starts these discussions. And then we need to take it from there to actually delve into what's happening here. Why are people making mistakes, not canceling anyone, and also not grouping everyone together? Because everyone is aware of these things at a different level, and then everyone is taking responsibility, I think, at a different level for these things. So for you specifically, talk to me a little bit about your breaking experience. I know it was so successful in terms of like the amount of people were watching and how that felt and what was going through your head as that process was unfolding.
So for me, I mean, Logan Paul was kind of pushed me to start it, right? But he never planted the seed for me to want to do box breaks. So I'd wanted to do box breaks for so long, months prior to Logan Paul. Even since I first started my channel, I was like, it's a really great thing to do. Get all my community together, do a live stream, and break boxes. And I think that in itself is a really fun thing to do. And it just does get so dangerous after that. So when Logan Paul did his, I think this is for me in general, right? So as I said to you before, I was always nervous about starting to do Pokemon on YouTube years ago. When I started in 2019, I didn't care anymore. I didn't care what anyone thought of me, in terms of the music world or my friends or any like work stuff. I just wanted to do it because it's my hobby. When Logan Paul got into it, for me, it was like a way for me to now actually express myself more. Now Logan Paul's in it and he's kind of brought it to a lot of people on the mainstream. It's now cool, right? So Pokemon cards are now cool. So I can kind of actually finally do things that I was too scared to do before, which is one was the box breaks, and I think it was unfortunate timing, because many people lumped me with just trying to do what Logan Paul was doing. And in a sense I was trying to, use that hype, use that exposure to, grow my own channel. But in terms of the box breaks, I was someone who, I know the hobby. I'm very well researched in it. I've been in it for years. I know how this works. So I felt like I could do a better job than Logan could at actually communicating this hobby to people, because even in his first box break, there's many inaccuracies, especially with the Bulb. I know the Bulbasaur was a meme, the $30,000 Bulbasaur, but aside from Bulbasaur, the entire stream was inaccurate, with the conditions, with the pricing, with the reality. So I was like, right, I can be someone who can do this. I can have some success myself in terms of channel, in terms of viewerships, but also I can be someone that the buyer can actually can trust properly, because I know what I'm doing, right? And
those cards, I think too, one of my biggest issues with it was like the box price the $11,000, no one in their right mind in the Pokemon community would have paid $11,000 for a pack in any other circumstance, other than being on that stream, right?
Exactly. And I was one of them. I bought a pack from him. And so I was messaging. I was the first one to register interest. I was the first person to even pay him to buy a pack. Because I was speaking to him. I saw on his podcast he'd bought $60,000 worth of Pokemon cards. And I was like, wait, I like Pokemon cards. I'm into Pokemon cards. And for those who don't know, watching this, Logan Paul had recently just fought my best friend KSI in one of the biggest events in history. So I've got a connection to Logan Paul, whether it's positive or not. We know each other. We've seen each other many times. So I reached out to him. I was like, are you into Pokemon now? What have you been doing? So he was talking to me. He was asking me, have you got any first edition cards? I was like, yes, but not base set. So is Neo Genesis cool? I showed him my Neo Genesis set. So we were speaking about that. And then I heard he bought the box. And I messaged him. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you bought I think at the time, $200,000 first edition box. That's insane. And then he said to me, yeah, I'm gonna do a box break and we're gonna sell it at $11,000. And when I heard that, honestly, like, I actually had it was a weird moment. I was on a call with a bunch of my friends on Discord and I was like, guys, Logan Paul's about to charge $11,000. That's ridiculous. That's obscene. And then, moments later, he then put, I'm going to do a shout out and a FaceTime for the buyers. And as soon as I heard that, my entire, opinion on it changed, because I was like, right, that's where the value is coming from. The $11,000 is in that, right? It's in the shout out, the FaceTime, the event. And that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to get one. So I went from completely outraged and disgusted, thinking this is going to completely, ruin the hobby, until I heard, what it was about and whether that was his intention or not, to kind of like, now we've seen the second box break is a bit different, because it's clearly like, much of his intent, whether it was purposeful or not, his intent was to sell the crypto and sell the NFTs and sell everything attached to the event. But at the time, I just thought it was just a box break. He's got into Pokemon and he wants to get some packs out there. I saw $11,000 and I was like, no one's going to buy that. Like, they're not going to buy that. And then I saw the shout out and I was like, well, I'm involved. And a week before that, I was organizing with someone, Shady Penguin, who's a YouTuber. He was selling some heavy first edition packs, and I put an offer in of $4,000, I think, to buy a first edition heavy base set pack, because I mean these packs have been rising for years, right? I knew this might be my last chance to ever open one on the channel, so I put a bid in of $4,000, and I ended up losing that bid to $6,000, and that was heavy. And then a week later, Logan Paul selling an unweighed, completely random for $11,000. It was so weird, but then, when I did hear the shout out, when I did hear the FaceTime opportunity, etc., I was like, all right, that's where the value is, especially for me, because I can now get involved into this. It's going to be something that's going to benefit me.
But here's where the lack of transparency is that that is not the collector value of any of this. That's the influencer value. And so what happened 100%. To all of these booster boxes is they got raised up an incredible amount, not because average people valued that product that much. It was because people valued the money that they could make around the product and the exposure they could get for their channels and exactly. And all things. And I think to be part of an event, to be fair, and just be part of Pokemon history and be there, in that sort of thing, spending a little extra. And Logan never said those things. So and in fact, Logan said, this is now the price of these things. And it's going to go up more. And he made lots of comments how he thought it could go up more. And to me, that's extremely irresponsible. And whether
I agree,
I just imagine he's way too smart and savvy, and certainly the people around him. I mean, let's be real. This guy's making millions and millions of dollars off of social media advertising.
Yeah.
Now, he also can make so much money in so many different ways and make so much money in merchandising and other things. So for me, that's where that's where that greed came in to me, of like, it would have been so much better for the hobby. And frankly, Gary went on Graham Stephan's channel and said, I think these prices are ridiculous, basically, on these Charizards, and they're way overpriced. And this isn't like a genuine collector interest, but it's sort of it feels like it's it's been like really artificially driven in a
very artificial,
sort of thing. And I think, and going into booster box breakers too, the same thing is happening with Modern. And I think we should talk about that too, how everything is being driven up by this online social media, YouTube buying and selling world, clout world. And it's almost like the value of the cards has been so connected with the value of like getting Instagram followers and all sorts of things. And I think that that's life. But I think understanding the risks and the danger in all of that. And to me, it goes back to that transparency of people not talking about that or not being clear about it. And the biggest influencers really, really letting the whole hobby down and not addressing that enough. Biggest influencer being Logan Paul, who is the very biggest. And then, people who kind of filtered in and came into the hobby after that. So I guess one of the questions is like, what we can do about that now, and where do we go now that we understand that the booster box prices and a lot of the cards got to their evaluations because of that, and definitely would not have if that hadn't happened. There's no one who I think in their good conscience could say that the first edition booster box would have risen as fast, or those Charizards would have risen as fast without.
I think we'd all say that they would have risen to that at some point, but that's just been shortened, right? It's just been so fast, the time it took. I mean, how much is the booster box now? First edition booster box, like 500,000 or 450,000. I would have not ever guessed it would be that price right now. I'd probably hedge a guess to say maybe one day it'll get there, but the speed, and that is due really down to Logan Paul. But then after it, like I think the issue is, as you said, is Logan Paul charged $11,000, but that's not what the packs were worth, and I do agree with you. It's I'd say it's irresponsible. I wouldn't say it's dishonest on his point of view, because he just is not thinking about, the average person in the hobby, but I think it's irresponsible to not do the research and figure that out. Because the fact is, if Logan Paul sells his pack for $11,000, if I go and try and do that, I won't sell it for $11,000. I'm not Logan Paul, but then people were sticking to the same price, right? So you have everyone doing the box breaks where, they're now using the Logan Paul method, where the price of the pack, the price of the box is consistent with Logan, but they aren't Logan, right? They don't offer when I did box breaks as well, like people would say it's worth it for the shout out. And I say, it's not worth it for the shout out. Please understand, like, me shouting you out will not do much for you from this one pack, especially it's such a short amount of time. I mean, even me, like, and to make things clear as well, I didn't join the Logan Paul box break for Logan's shout out at all. I joined the Logan Paul box break because I knew that I could react to it on my platform. I could make content on my platform using his name and using that event. It wasn't the shout out that I wanted, because I've been here long enough to know that's not valuable, unless he shouts me out properly, unless he like links me, he actually does like a half an hour video describing me. It's not realistic, So I joined for what I could do on the back end of it. And that's why I was so successful afterwards, because I had that in mind. I was like, right, I'm going to react to the stream live. I'm going to do a video receiving the packs. I'm going to do a video grading the packs. I'm going to do a video reacting to the grades of the packs. I'm going to all this stuff on the back end. And that's where I put the work in. Whereas just a shout out alone is not going to get you that. If someone joins my box break, my shout out's not going to do much for that person. Honestly. And I try and be as transparent about that as I can do, but it's hard to. It's really hard to. When I say hard to be transparent, it's hard to actually make the person understand. I saw your chat with Jarvis recently, and he actually brought this up in the last box break that I did a month or two ago with the Supreme Victors. I literally said to people, I was like, you will not get the value back on this box break. If you join, you will not get a PSA 10. You're not going to get your money back. So please, if you join this, please only join for the event. And that's not even the shout out, that's the event, the thrill of just seeing one of your favorite creators open a pack, which is that is a gamble, but it's also entertainment. And if someone wants to do that, then they can do, but please be aware of the dangers of this. And I think that goes back to my point originally. You had all these Moist Critical, you had Ludwig, all these streamers that were, some of them weren't even selling packs, but they were still doing enough damage because of the PSA 10 price.
Selling for huge amounts, I think. That was one of the things.
A-Drive,
excuse me. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm...
No, yeah. I think to be honest, A-Drive is one of the ones where it made me feel sick, right? So this is the part where I jumped out. I was like, I cannot be a person who does these box breaks anymore. Because of his pricing, and I've never mentioned his name before on my channel. I've tried to just use the information and try and anyone who's watching this content or watching my video learn about what I don't want to call people out. I think I called out Collectibles Guru, but in my opinion, he's not someone who's representative of the hobby at all. So I don't mind if he wants to fire back at me or we have an argument. I don't really mind because he's not in here. Yeah. But A-Drive is someone that was in the community. He is someone that many people look up to and many people enjoy. And some of the things he was doing with his box breaks were and still are to me very, very dishonest. He actually invited me to join his box break, the first one, Neo Genesis first edition, and that's my favorite set ever. I was very interested, but the pack at the time was like $1,500, and I was like, no. Like I remember saying to him on Discord, like, I'm not like, that's mental. I'm not buying that.
I think the issue with I think that, so, and rather than calling out to, like, ideally having like discussions with these people, because I think that what I said when I was on Frosty Caribou's channel was, we should want everyone to succeed, and we should want everyone who's in the hobby, no matter who they are, to succeed, and we want their channels to succeed, but we should try to help shape their channels in the way and demand from them what we want from them over time by using our views, by using our view spending power, all these types of things. That's how a free market works, is you have an educated population who understands, who is on the level of the sellers in terms of figuring, and so I think the issue with calling Collectibles Guru out is that I actually think he in some ways did more good than harm. It was so obvious.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Understood. Yeah,
it was like
meme it. You can easily joke about it.
Yeah, whereas like no one even needed to make a video, and you could just look in the chat, and everyone's like, "This guy's a joke. This guy's a joke." Like,
I agree with you there. That's very true.
So it's like, and so I think it makes enjoyable content. I think it's fine for people who have made those videos, and Jarvis made a good video, and a lot of people did. But it was almost like, when we really think about like where the issue is, I actually found that it was the issue of people were using him as a scapegoat instead of actually looking at the people who are more, I think, gray area-ish, and more where they're doing some questionable stuff. And I saw those people calling out him, and I was thinking to myself, like, maybe not, like, maybe this isn't good, that and so I think that figuring out how to have, like, you being maybe friends with some of these people, it's like, how much does it need to happen in these conversations where we should be talking in front of people where people are actually going to hear it? Does that create more toxicity, or does that actually help? Because I think the ideal thing is that we actually want to make the situation better and not just cause more anger and toxicity.
So exactly.
Versus having those conversations private. Like, if Frosted Caribou had contacted everyone privately to have those conversations, would that have done more, or would making the video have done more, or would doing both? And I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, either. I think it's, all three, all options are justified at a certain percent, but it's hard to figure out what's right and wrong. So there's no regulations. We have an opinion, but we can make change for sure. But we can't point fingers. And even with A-Drive, right? So this is someone I tried to educate my viewers on the right thing, the wrong thing to do, at least in my opinion. And hopefully they can take that information. So if there's someone who wants to go and buy a pack in some of these box breaks, understand why, understand what you're doing, rather than going and being like, oh, this person's the worst. Because I've worked with A-Drive in the past, right? And I've been on his series before, and I think he's a good guy. I think he's just misinformed, like massively misinformed. And I think the wrong thing to do is for me to go and do a video, A-Drive is the worst, or this is the worst. What I should do instead is contact the person directly and speak to them about it, which I think I haven't done that yet. And I think I should. I think that's my responsibility to do. But then again, at the same time, it's like, I don't want to confront this person, because I don't want to start an argument. The main reason, which I didn't say earlier, the reason I fell out of love with YouTube and the music side of things is because I had a diss track war with with my best friend's brother at the time, which started out as a joke. But then, as we all know, especially with this box breaks thing, something that can start off in a great place, but it can go from there. It can snowball, and it can become something that is toxic, that is dishonest, and it's hard to know when to stop or when to kind of like jump out on a snowball that's already going to go with you or without you. So I jumped out of the music game at the time and came into Pokemon. So what I don't want to do in Pokemon is start firing shots at people or calling people out for then that same thing to happen, especially in something that I love so much, like Pokemon, So I think the right thing to do is to contact, I should be here contacting A-Drive, but I think the issue is transparency. For A-Drive, I believe like the issues that I had with him was that he didn't disclose the price of his packs. Like he'll announce a box break and he won't announce the packs. And the one time he did announce the packs was an $1,800 pack of Team Rocket. He got smoked for it. He got, and this is not from content creators. This is from the audience. This is ridiculous. You can't charge this. So I remember he did an apology video. He changed his price back down to $1,300, which is, better than $1,800. But even that at the time was still highly outrageous. Yeah. And now you'll notice he doesn't put the price on his box breaks, and he'll never say it. You have to contact him. You have to get the packs to know the price. And that is awful because, and that's worse than charging the price in my opinion, because if you charge for $1,800 or $1,300, people will buy it or they won't buy it, and that is up to the buyer. You should do as much as you can as a content creator to let people know the worth, but that's their decision. But if you hide the price, then you're doing worse for the hobby, because now you're seeing, and most of his customers, most of the people who buy from him are already influencers, multimillionaires who buy from him. But that's even worse, because then you'll see the regular person watching that and seeing, someone famous or someone really, have a lot of money buy this pack, and they think that's, I'll go and do that. And then it's just the price. It's honestly, it's really hard.
Yeah. And then the question becomes, why are people buying these things? So, and because I think there's another layer of problematic stuff here, which is that even if you are completely transparent and you tell your audience people are going to lose on this, you are hosting gambling. Like, in my view, like
that's why I stopped. Yeah.
You're hosting a legalized gambling session with people. Mm-hmm. If you're running raffles on something, you're hosting a legalized gambling or a gray area gambling, whatever we want to say. And I know that we use words to make it not sound like gambling, so people can't actually get in trouble. But it's the same. I mean, it's the same thing. It
is, yeah.
And I think that one, I'm just not sure any of that should exist, and any of that, and that maybe even just doing that in this way during this year is predatory. Because if you're making any sort of profit, now if you're selling the packs literally for the same price as they are on eBay or something like this, I'm still wouldn't do it, because I don't think people should be opening. Like, I think people are addicted to pack openings, because to me, why are people spending so much money on these things outside of the fact that either they're very wealthy, right, and they're going for the entertainment and the experience. With those people, I've got no problem. If you can afford, because it's probably an addiction for these people too, to be completely honest right now.
Yeah.
But if you can afford your addiction, that's sort of your own business,
Yeah. And I think gambling and addiction are very close, right? They're brothers, or they're probably the same family, but they aren't actually. I don't think they're actually the same thing, because you can be addicted to running, you can be addicted to exercise, so you can be addicted to things that are healthy for you. But addiction is still addiction. You can get addicted to anything, right?
Yeah, and as a therapist, I would define gambling addiction specifically, or an addiction like, or any sort of addiction. When we use that word clinically, it means you have to have like 3 or 4 negative consequences in your life. So basically, it has to be affecting, like you can't sleep, you don't have enough money for food, like major issue, like financial issues it's causing. You can't stop even if you want to stop, even if it's making you miserable, you can't stop. So these types of things, and I don't hear, listen, we have casinos in this country, right? Casinos are forced to say, to give a disclaimer and a warning. And even though they give a disclaimer and a warning, if you go to a casino, it is filled with gambling addicts. And they're basically, casinos are making money off of gambling addiction. Yeah. And we've decided as a society, at least right now, that's okay. because adults should have the freedom, right, to choose. And I don't even know where I'm at on that, because I think what becomes difficult is when you decide that you're not healthy enough to make decisions for yourself, and that you're not in control of yourself. That's that we get into some dangerous, like, and I have some very like libertarian views on the world. And I think we get into some dangerous, like anti-libertarian, anti-freedom spaces there. But I also think when we think about the chemistry in people's brains, what happens is that their midbrain takes over from basically their prefrontal cortex. Their prefrontal cortex is where all of your morality is, all of your good decision making, where you're able to make good decisions for yourself in your life, these types of things. And when you become addicted, your midbrain, almost, to put it really simply, takes over and is making decisions for you, and is actually using your prefrontal cortex as a tool to get that addiction met, to get that thing met.
Yeah, I understand that. Many things in my life I can relate to that outside of Pokemon,
And so it's sort of like, I think that there are a lot of like maybe some young people in the hobby, some naive people in the hobby, but we have to understand we're in the middle of like a pandemic, a world pandemic, where people are inside, where all across these hobbies, there's been probably great increases in like online shopping addiction. People soothing themselves through spending. And as an
Yeah.
influencer, it's like, if you don't acknowledge that reality that's probably happening out there, and as a big platform, talk about these issues and acknowledge what you're doing and how you're basically enabling, I think, on some level. Now, I think that other people are probably just going to take your place. And so you just stopping to do them probably doesn't fix the problem. And I'm not sure you could do anything to really fix it, or anyone can do anything to fix it. But when someone's making millions and millions of dollars, which, and we can go into the math a little of these booster box channels, off of that sort of reality, I wouldn't feel good. Like,
no.
So, then I think it becomes like, and maybe people disagree with this, and I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts in the chat. And these booster box breakers, maybe they think that isn't happening, or that people aren't addicted, but why would they be spending so much extra money on something? And I get these stories, because I'm a therapist and I talk about this stuff. People message me, I spent myself into debt in Pokemon. I was told by the streamer that that these things were always gonna go up, and now that PSA is shut down, I can't even send my cards out to grading, and I'm leveraged on credit, and what can I do? And these types of things.
Yeah, I think that's you raised a number of incredible points there. I wish I could explain my points as well as you can, which is especially, I think half of the issues I have is I just can't explain what's in my head. But I think you're right. I have no idea on, I'm not educated. I'm not researched into addiction at all. So maybe I've never thought about me opening packs or my, as in personally as an addiction, let alone what I may be causing to others out there who are watching my channel. And I don't even know where I would start solving that. Should Leon Hart, should myself not exist from opening packs? Not really, because we're here to open packs. And as you say, the person watching really does have to on the pack side of things, really does have to decide whether they can afford to buy a pack, whether they want to buy a pack, and whether they want to enjoy it. And again, like, it doesn't always have to be. It's like it is a form of gambling, right? Like, opening packs essentially is a form of gambling, but I think. If you let it be, right? I mean, if you're opening packs to find cards to put into your deck to go and play at a tournament, you're not really gambling. You're buying a product. So, if you're opening packs to just enjoy and see if you can get a shiny card with your family, then if that becomes an addiction, then it's like, that's going to be dangerous to you and your family and your well-being. But
and
the enjoyment's still there.
Gambling doesn't necessarily need to lead to addiction. So just like drinking doesn't necessarily lead to addiction to drinking. Anything in life does. And often when things lead to addiction, it's because of there are things that you can't control, just chemical, just the way your brain, genetics, these types of things. But also it can have to do with a lot of other things going on in your life that has nothing to do with the influencer, and we can't say it's the influencer's fault that directly. But it becomes.
We do have responsibility. We definitely do have the responsibility, and especially in things we can change, right? So in things we can change, we should do. So the money aspect of the box breaks, and this is aside from the points that Frosted Caribou brought up, because that in itself can be very harmful. But I'm speaking about literally in the fact that I'm selling a pack to someone. What are the reasons I'm selling it? What are the reasons they're buying it? They can be two different things. When I started doing the box breaks, I by no means was trying to rip people off, was trying to force people down some sort of rabbit hole of gambling, of addiction, of any of this. When I joined a box break, I joined it just for the aspect, for the fun. But I'm someone who can afford to do that. I'm someone who can afford to lose out. But then how do I communicate that to my audience? I can communicate that. I can be upfront. I can be the value, the condition, etc. But how can I make the decision for them? How can I make the decision of should they be buying it for their enjoyment? Should they be buying it for a profit? I can't control that. So my response now is just to stop. I've got a box that I bought. I'm trying to figure out how to break it now, but I can't find a price that I'm comfortable with in terms of not in terms of profit. I can't find a price that works for the audience. Therefore, I won't sell it. Do I open it myself for the entertainment? But then, as you mentioned, then it also can shine a different light on someone who sees me open a box and gets a hollow and thinks, oh wow, I can do that too. But maybe this is a very expensive box. It's so hard. So now I've just stopped.
Personally, I think that's where it gets silly, because we have to draw it. Like for me, saying like Leonhardt is causing gambling addiction is just too far. Like opening products and you enjoying is going to trigger someone who has an addiction to do it, right? On some level. So, but that is so far away from you selling the pack directly, and is far away from you telling your audience that this is a good investment and you're going to make money
absolutely
on this.
Yeah.
You know, and is far away from people who are charging as much as possible all the time and are constantly
and lying about it, you know, and lying about that. That's the worst part is like if you're going to do it, just be transparent. So I think, you know, a lot of these streamers as well, you know, and this is where Frosted Carry raised so many good points about the money in titles, and the way we YouTubers and content creators approach money. But you'll see people lie. So people will open like a certain box and say it's worth $30,000 when it's not. It's worth $10. Sorry, $10,000. So if you're going to do it, at least be transparent. And I think one of the issues I had with Frost's video in terms of my involvement is I put money in my title many times, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared to say that I do, and I will continue to do that for reasons that I have. But when I put, you know, if I put a value in my title, it's what I'm opening, you know, it's what I paid for the box. It's what I'm opening. And then inside the video, you'll hear me say the reasons for buying this, you know, the consequences of me buying this. I mean, you know, I open boxes many times on the channel, and you'll hear me laughing because I'm just losing so much money. And in a sense, you know, I'm doing it so someone doesn't have to. You know, if they can see me open a box and be annoyed personally, they'll think, right, I'm not going to go and buy that box, right? And it. But then again, I do understand that headlines. So headlines don't equate to content, right? So I think with Frosted, I reached out to her. I said to her, "Do you watch my videos? Have you seen my videos before? Because everything you're saying, I agree with, but I'm still being put into this category of these others. So, like, yes, I put the title there. Yes, I put the money in the title, but I do as much as I can to kind of educate people and make people aware of what's going on and you know, pros and cons to everything. And like you say, we can't control, every single person who watches, but we can do what we can, I think, to be right and to be transparent. You know, then they have to make it up on their end. And
I take you at your word, and hopefully people can take me at my word, because that's all we can do, you know. But I take you at your word that like you really care, and you have to let people evolve and figure out how to, like, this is new for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So most of us haven't considered any of this, you know, and the effects. And so it's like figuring out how to run your channel in a way where you can really grow and be successful and enjoy yourself and really love what you're doing, while also having like the biggest positive effect on the community you can. I 100% believe that you, Leonhardt, Real Breaking Nate, Super Danny are all like that. Like, I don't believe any of you guys are bad actors or are intentionally doing anything to harm the hobby. I just don't. I don't see evidence for that. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a good, like, it's a good conversation to figure out, like,
of course, how
everyone can do better, you know. That's it. Framing it that way.
Yeah, we can definitely all do better. I mean, if I could go back now, I would change every aspect about all my box breaks. You know, would it mean that I wouldn't do it? I probably wouldn't say I would go and not do it, but I would do what I can to, you know, if I say this card is, you know, worth this in a PSA 10, I'd try and go back and, you know, put a big red box on the screen and do as much as I can to make people aware of this. But all we can do, we can't do that. We can't go back in time. So all I can do now is continue to learn and grow. And I think my response to many things has been to just stop. Right. So like when I could see that people were lying about prices in their videos and their streams, I wouldn't even show a price. You know, when people had when I saw people doing things that weren't correct or weren't true or transparent with box breaks, I just stopped. But then I had so many people reaching out to me like, "Oh, where are your box breaks? Like, I come to your channel every week on a Saturday to see your box breaks. Where are they?" And you know, you get people saying, you know, "I'm really depressed right now, and watching your content gets me through that. Watching your content, you know, and it's like, well, now am I now doing a disservice to that person because I'm not doing a box break?" And then you know, the price in the videos as well, that not putting a price in the video could be more harmful than putting one in, you know, because if I don't put one, they could now think, right, this card is awful, but actually it's a good card, or the opposite. so it's like, what do you do? And I think, again, it always equates back to being transparent, being as true as you can, and educating as much as possible. And that's all we can do if we're going to continue. Otherwise, we just stop. But then again, stopping can be just as harmful as carrying, as carrying on. It's really tough. And I don't know the answer. If I knew the answer, I would fix it. But I don't know the answer, honestly. And
I think it's such a great point that people watch these things and aren't buying. And so it's also like free, enjoyable entertainment and a way for them to enjoy the hobby while they can't afford the cards, or to see booster boxes open. Oop, there's a bug that's crawling across the camera. We have a ladybug.
That's amazing. I should open my window real quick while we do that. Let's go for it.
I'll wait for him to come back before we continue.
Such a hot day today in London.
Yeah. And so, one of the suggestions I make for people is and I hang out on some of these pack breaking channels and have had someone on the channel who talked about it.
Yeah.
And I have I'm having more and more mixed feelings because my feelings about them too so I made a video really early on in my channel talking about like PokeRev and talking about his channel and then some far more nefarious channels that I was seeing without mentioning their names.
Yeah.
And had some concerns. And it was pretty early on when I think things weren't as bad. And my feelings and have shifted too over time. And so it's sort of like, it provides excellent free content and a place for people to hang out, have a community. It's a place for people to see these vintage box breaks that they are never going to have enough money to be a part of, and to see the cards open and to enjoy that. And I think that's all amazing and wonderful for the hobby and for people to have that experience, and a way for us all to share in the joy of opening some of this product. I think the first Logan Paul break was very positive experience and very enjoyable experience. The actual break, the first one, and then just sharing my honest opinion, the second one just felt like a total money grab. And it was like,
I completely agree. Yeah.
And it was people who I just felt were buying packs for shout outs to be a part of the event or to get closer to him. I felt like the whole thing just felt so different. And I think
it felt dirty, right? It didn't feel, the first one, like there was a few inaccuracies, but you could put that down to Logan Paul just not knowing, right? You can put that down to people around him not knowing about the hobby. But the second one, like, he's had 6 months now to fully understand, fully get involved, speak to people like Gary. He actually spoke to many very knowledgeable collectors. So for the second one to happen like that was, I even I said on my channel, on my video, I can't say this is. I can't say it was good, it just felt like a complete switch from the first. And
and
that's with him knowing, that's with him learning as well, which is worse, right? Like if that second box break had happened as the first one, again, we would have been right. It just doesn't know. Not it's right. We'll say it just doesn't know. This is clearly not what we're interested in. But because that was the second one, after he'd learned all these things, it was like, it's clear that this is just a vehicle to promote the NFTs and the crypto. And it was didn't feel good at all.
People can do the math on these things, right? And so even moving away from Logan, who made, I don't know, $7 million maybe in a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, it count all the crypto, it's probably more.
So so it's with the NFTs. So it's sort of like, well, that's a lot. That provides a lot of incentive, and I think that it's up to people's personal responsibility whether or not they want to buy those things or buy into that. I think to some degree, and I think just being transparent about how much he made, and then also looking at like people who are opening lots of modern product. Like if you sit down and do the math, and I want to make a video that really breaks down the math more.
Yeah.
People, there are just like average guys who don't have huge followings who are making like $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour.
Modern.
Yeah. And then when they open a vintage, it's so hard to get the vintage products, so they can't do it all the time, but like they can open like a Japanese vintage booster box and they can make like $6,000 on the 60 packs in 30 minutes. And it's sort of like, it's does the audience really know that? Or would it be really awkward to say facts? And when it's really awkward to tell people facts, that's when that something, in my opinion, is kind of not transparent. It's like when it makes someone angry for you to say that person just made that much money off of that, this person just did this person just did this, and it makes them uncomfortable. It's like I think that there's something wrong. And this whole thing of like when people pull bad packs and the person says it's still worth it, or they
I hate that. That's so bad. Yeah.
Like the prices I'm seeing these packs go for, some of these Japanese packs, if you pulled the best holo and it graded a 10, you would like break even.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
I mean, I get offered a lot of Japanese packs, and I'm like, outside of content, like for me, it's different. If someone offers me a pack, I'm like, I have to consider, right, would I buy it on its own? No. But would I buy it for content? Like maybe I would do it for a video, you know, just to showcase. I mean, I bought a guaranteed shadowless pack from Unweighed Box Break. I have it here. I haven't opened it yet. I haven't weighed it yet, but I'm going to do a video, you know, talking about the history of the base set, history of the first edition shadowless, etc. And then I'll probably weigh it on the camera and speak about, you know, the dangers of that in itself. And then I'll decide whether to open it or not, you know. But would I have bought that pack without content? No, you know, and I'll do my job to communicate that to the audience. But yeah,
I mean,
these
buy a booster. I mean, you also have really good income from all of these things. But
yeah,
like it's hard for me to wrap my head around why someone, other than that they're sort of addicted to the high of it, why someone would buy a pack, particularly packs that have such bad expected value, and they're charging so much higher than it's worth. The only two conclusions I come to is either there's sort of like a predatory relationship from the streamer who's pushing them to do it somehow, or has convinced them that it's a good financial decision. They have just crazy amounts of money, so it just doesn't matter, and that's possible. And it's sort of it really losing. You know, I see people spend like $4,000 in like 3 minutes on on buying like a number of vintage packs from someone. It's like, well, I don't know how many people alive can really afford spending $4,000 in just a few minutes, like repetitively over and over, and keep reducing $4,000 to nothing. I don't think that many, but maybe some on these channels. But why else are they doing it? Because is the experience so much better having the pack? One, is the experience so much better having the pack than just watching and enjoying and engaging? And two, is why not wait for the packs that at least have, like when you open like a jungle first edition pack, where like the jungle commons are worth a decent amount. If you get the 10s, you can actually make money because some of them are so high. Then it's like, okay, the expected value isn't that bad. But when you buy into like a Deoxys break, or like, you know, like you're not going to get the gold star. And even if you get the gold star, you know, it's like probably not going to be a 10. And unless you get the Rayquaza, you're probably going to break even on the other two gold stars if you get them in 9, and it's 1 in 72 packs. Like but
if you get a holo, like usually, like if you're opening like a first edition gym challenge box, right? If you get you want a holo, you want to get a holo, you want to get a Sabrina's Gengar or blah 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 blah. If you open Deoxys, you want the Rayquaza or the gold star, and that's it.
Yeah.
If you get a holo, you're heartbroken. And I think that the true way to see these box breaks is, would the breaker open it themselves, right? And if the answer is no, then it's like they're doing it because they know that they can make more out of the box by playing on, you know, the fact that someone's trying to gamble on it, you know, take a risk. If they wouldn't open it themselves, then you know, what's going on? That's why when I did the Supreme Victor's box, I bought 2. I bought one for me and I bought one for the stream. So I was going to break one and I was going to open one. So I was going to do one where I am opening the box myself and showing people what this box is like. And then after that, they can choose to then break, you know, to buy into the break that I did, you know. And the fact of the matter is, you know, my box was awful. I got awful cards, whereas the actual one that we broke on stream had really good pulls, you know. But again, I think it's hard because it's enjoyment for me personally. I've bought many box, many packs. As I told you before, I'll sit on live streams and just buy boxes or buy packs in breaks. That I'm doing it purely for the enjoyment. But that's me because I can afford it. And if I do get stung, if I do get hurt, then obviously I've lost money, but I've enjoyed it just as much as I would go enjoy myself at a casino. You know, I'll go and lose some money on roulette, which, you know, can be fun, but I'm coming at it from an angle where I can afford to take that hit. The issue again is what we all know is when someone can't afford to take that hit, and then they're doing it just for, well, and then the breaker or the company or the casino is doing it just for predatory reasons. But then again, I think we also shouldn't. I don't think we should always be so or treat the customer or the audience to be so naive as to they can't make that decision up themselves, right? I think we have to give credit to the audience. Often they can make their mind up and they can make the decision. and that's why I think being transparent is the right thing to do, because if we can do all we can to let them know the dangers and all we can to let them know, then it's up to them. And we can't hold hands with every single person and speak to them directly, but we have to also give them some credit that they can make the right decision. Does that make any sense right there?
Sure. And I mean, and people who are struggling with an addiction, they need to be the ones to come to terms with that they have an addiction and admit that themselves in order to seek help. So if you have a problem in your life, you can have other people tell you have that problem, but it's really for you to be like, I have this problem and it's hurting myself and others, and I need to do something about it. And I think that, and make a change. And so, you know, there are all sorts of stories from like the sports card world where they've been doing breaks for a long time, where people will, you know, be spending thousands and thousands, hiding it from their wife, you know.
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, there's lots and lots of, and it's just because, so, and then where this trickles down, so, and hurts the whole hobby, is that the gambling is creating sort of like artificially high prices that aren't sustainable.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And these communities are creating these incredible incentives for, so if the breaker has distributor relationships, they are making thousands an hour.
Yeah.
If the breaker has, likely, if they're charging like $5, $6, you know, $7 a pack, maybe they're only charging $3 a pack to some people, or $2 to a pack, and then they're making much less. But if they're charging like that 5, 6, 7, or 10, I see some people charging 12. I see people charging like $50, $60 for an Evolutions pack. I saw that for a little bit. Like, why do you think the booster boxes go up so much in price? And then it's because exactly, turning and burning, and that people online are willing to pay a lot more for it. And none of that is investing, guys. So it's like, it's gonna end, and there's gonna be a huge amount of PSA cards and these cards just sitting out there, that it isn't gambling to buy a PSA card. You get the card that you wanted. And so how much of this, from that investing perspective, is being pushed up by the fun of opening packs, versus that people actually want those cards for that value, and that the supply and demand at the end of the day is going to hold those things up. So you're going to have people, and I think that there's a lot of justification that, and a lot of these people have been covered up by the boom, because they were giving really terrible, in my opinion, basic common sense, like financial investing advice to their audiences. And then their audiences were able to like break even in a lot of cases, because the market went up like 5 to 6 to 7 times in value. Whereas if you had done if you'd done what I've been doing, which was buying things, you know, directly and trying, and, you know, you would have made much huger margins than just breaking even this year, or breaking close to even. But I don't think people know that. I don't think people are aware of that, because people don't actually study the market. And, you know, what I do and how I've made so much money, I don't feel good about all the time either, but I do think that there's a difference between me buying stuff that anyone could have bought who was here 3 years ago. Like, anyone who had the money could have bought it. It was a free market. I bought it because I saw the investment potential. Other people didn't. And now I'm selling these cards at market, explaining to people how much I bought them for, explaining that they may go down, they may go up, they have some potential, but they may also go down. When I was selling those unlimited Charizards during the heat of Logan Paul, and some of those unlimited cards and those common cards, I was literally making videos saying, don't buy these things, don't buy these things. But I was selling them, and that's this iffy situation where it's like, I didn't want to take those huge losses on the cards because I really believed it. But maybe I shouldn't have sold those at all, maybe because I took advantage of people who didn't understand Pokemon as much, and I shouldn't have done that. And so there's all this stuff all around. But yeah. So what do we?
I think there though. I think you can't really. I don't think you or anyone who's in that position can not sell that card, you know, and feel bad about it, because it's like I said before. I think as long as you are transparent, as long as you can be as upfront as you can with the seller or with your audience, then that is all you can do on that level. You can go further. You can reach out to people. You know, me, I can speak to people on my Discord. I can chat to people one-on-one. But being transparent is what what you, well, it's not all you can do. It should be the requirement, actually. It should actually be the baseline for what we do as creators. Because again, like someone buying a Charizard off you, right? Say, you know, in January 2020, the card was, I think, I don't know how much a 9 was. It was like £300, £400, £500.
I think 350 somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a 9 now is well clear of 1,000, right? I'm not sure the actual.
Yeah, I think it's pushed back. So I sold my 9s at around 5,000 to 6,000.
Yeah.
And then they came back to about 1,500. And then they've been going back up. They kind of rested around 1,750 for a while. This is all US. And then I think that some of them are probably going for over 2,000. They have come back a little bit, but you know, there's a little bit of push happening there. But it was so blatant, you know. And then I sold some like first edition commons and uncommons because I bought a bunch of those before when they were going for like $12 each, and now they were going for $1,000. They were even more. You know, absurd. And it's all these things where people don't understand that there weren't any graded because they weren't worth anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And collectors
and now they're worth something, but the reason they're worth something is because they're low pop and not many exist. But by the time PSA catches up, they're going to be here by the hundreds of thousands because people have seen that, and that's the delay that we're working on. But then again, you know, someone buying a card from you, they may not even care that they're going to lose money. They might just be someone who wasn't involved in Pokemon 2 years ago, a year ago. They are now, and they just want to get a Charizard to put on their shelf. You know, I think you can't, and we can't. Like, and as harsh as it sounds, we can't hold the hands of every single person we influence, we do business with, but we can let them know the dangers, and then they can make that decision. And I think we have to give credit to and I think this is something with the Frosted Caribou conversation as well. I think people have to make up their own mind. They have to be so for me, right, I'll put a crazy title out there, opening a $20,000 base set booster box, right? And first of all, the reason I would do this, and I think this is something that a lot of people don't think about either, is I come from a place on YouTube where people don't watch Pokemon or aren't interested. So I'd say my audience, especially at the start, especially at the Logan Paul hype, was half people interested in Pokemon and half just casual people, you know, who are fans of me from my music or fans from me from my YouTube, who are just wanting to watch some packs and just wanting to see some entertainment. So the reason I would put in the title opening a $5,000 box of Supreme Victors is because if I put a title of opening a Supreme Victors booster box, I would lose half my audience because they don't care. No one cares about the Supreme Victors box. What they care about is the value. Okay, so right, this is an important box. This is quite a pricey box. So this is why I'm going to click this video. This is why I'm going to be invested to watch this. So ultimately, I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm not trying to be dangerous there. I'm not trying to use that figure to make profit. I'm not trying to use this to make profit. That will have negative effects to the hobby. It will have negative, of course, but it'll also do so much good for the hobby. And it's not up to me to. It's up to the person watching to decide what they want to view it as. So, and again, furthermore, is the title is one thing, but the content for me is so much more. I believe in the content so much more than I believe in the title. The title is what brings someone in. The title is what sucks someone into the content, which is what I want at the end of the day. I wouldn't be creating videos if I didn't want people to watch them. And I want to be as big as possible. I want to, I've got goals to become the biggest Pokemon content creator, or at least I had, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this to get to where I want to be. However, it doesn't mean that inside the content and in the video, I will lie to people. I will be dishonest. I will profiteer. I'll be as honest as I can. I'll be as educational as I can be, and they have to, and the person has to watch that, right? If someone's, and I think the Frosted Caribou argument to that would be, well, then if your title says that, then you're bringing the wrong type of people into the hobby, and I agree with that. I do agree with that, but also, if I don't do that, if I don't have the content there, how can I shape them into someone who's good for the hobby? Either, like someone who just reads headlines and nothing else, they have to take some responsibility. If they're going to believe a headline, or if they're going to believe one thing on the headline, that's they have to decide that, right? In the content. The content paints such a different picture as well. So I think we have to give credit to the audience. I think we have to give credit to the real people out there, just as they want from us, right? We have to credit them as much as they can credit us. And
yeah,
I think there are people taking advantage. And
I think the danger is how many people what are these cards actually worth to people anymore? You know, like I think that when you see prices stabilize for a couple of years, that's where you really get a sense of like how much these cards are really worth to people. Because if they were worth less, they sell them, or if they could put that money in something that was worth more to them, they could do that. Now, Pokemon cards and all collectibles and anything that becomes sort of an established market is always going to be a store of value. And that's part of the value of these cards. And so pretending that art, that fine art, that antiques and collectibles, that antique firearms, that Pokemon cards aren't also stores of value isn't the reality. They're always going to be stores of value. So people who spend tons of money on a gorgeous painting, it's also, they're hoping the painting goes up in value, and they're also hoping that at least it retains value and that they can put it on their wall and look at it and it's beautiful. And it's just a lot more fun and enjoyable to own that and look at that than own like a stock that's just a number on a screen.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that it's why it's so appealing to invest, and it's real value in these types of things. I think the danger is when things become a bubble, is when it becomes all so much about just the fact that things can only go up and that you can sell to the next person, and that you're really just buying into these things. You have very little interest in these things at these prices. And if you were really asked, if people were really honest, they'd be like, those are ridiculous prices to pay for these things. In my opinion, in my opinion, they're not worth that to me. And I think there are lots of cards that fit that bill. I don't think trophy cards necessarily fit that, because they're such rare, scarce items, just personally, and I think there are certain set cards where the price makes more sense to me, a lot of sense to me. But when I look across the hobby, there are cards where I'm like, it makes no sense that a card that I believe this card is going to have 50 listings on eBay forever, or for the next 15 years. And it's selling like it's like this item that no one can find, and that's this exclusive rare item. And so, and I think that all the constant money talk or money videos, if it's not done with that sort of frame and understanding of like, how do you really assess true value for yourself, and you're encouraging that in your audience, and you're kind of glamorizing speculation, which I think, and the sports card hobby is doing it much, much more than Pokemon, is glamorizing this sort of flipping and speculation, and people making outrageous, absurd statements like, I'm buying this and I'm going to sell it for $1 million in 3 months. Maybe, but it's based on nothing. It's absurd. It's an absurd statement. It gets people's minds excited, and frankly, it gets people who are most susceptible to get rich quick type schemes, and the hope that it sells them, which is that you can escape your terrible job, you can escape your negative circumstances in your life by just like buying this cardboard and flipping it in a few months. And the reality is, there's probably a massive transfer of wealth happening, both to the wealthiest people in this hobby, and a transfer of wealth to PSA, and a transfer of wealth to like all the businesses that are buying and flipping, and a transfer of wealth to the Pokemon company. And a lot of that, it's sort of a, who is everyone going to sell to? It's sort of a pyramid scheme. It's sort of a greater full pyramid scheme. You have to have someone else in the line to eventually sell it to at a higher level, in order for the price to go up. And my concern is that with all of the fun and positivity and lights in Leonhardt's videos, it's like that isn't really being talked about. And I think the issue is like picking a lane. It's like, if you're just a pure entertainer, fun commentator saying that, but I also see him talking a little bit sometimes about the financial stuff, saying this is the rarest card in the world when it's not, saying this is how much this card should be worth or could be, and him being labeled as an expert in the finances of Pokemon. Like, people think Leonhardt's an expert, and he might be an expert in the finances of Pokemon. I bet he is, but his channel is not a financial channel. And there's this weird sort of thing of like, if he starts giving, I bet he would give great financial expert advice on Pokemon. He's a really smart guy who's been doing this for a long time and probably has a great understanding of the market, but he doesn't do that publicly, and so.
And I don't think that, and this is the hard part. I don't think that in itself is a problem either, because I think his point of view, and I think his channel is there for all ages. It's there for children. It's there for people who collect. It's just there for pure entertainment. Yeah. And I think something that I differ to Leonhardt is I I can't be online, or I can't be on my channel and not be myself. I would find it super, super draining to do that, to be, and Leon Hart he does play a character on his channel, and that's not a problem. But I think, I think it's very clear. It's very clear to see that Leon Hart as a person, or Leon, is not Leon Hart, right? And I don't think that's malicious. I don't think that's any ill intent there. I think he just wants to be this positive place where people can go and be entertained, be inspired, and be motivated. However, I think you are right in the sense that if he did give advice, if he did speak about the true side of Pokemon collecting, investing, etc., it would also benefit many people. But that just might not be his goal, right? That might not be his goal. I think, and my issue for me personally, and especially when you look at, Frosted Carrier's video, she does all 4 different categories. I'm all of them. I'm a fan, I'm a collector, I'm a flipper with the store. If you count the store as flipping, I'm a flipper. I'm an investor. I'm them all. And one thing that drains me and I find difficult is how can I operate and be good for all of those 4 categories? And I don't know how to. And that's why I've stopped posting at the minute. That's why I'm trying to figure things out. And I never knew I would get this much audience. I tried to, that's my goal, but I didn't really understand the responsibility I had at the time. I do now, and I've been learning that along the way. But it's difficult. And I think there's so many different areas of Pokemon. There's so many different areas of life that it's hard to cater to everybody. I think, like Jarvis spoke about when you spoke to him, what he said is, make the content that you want. Make the content that you want to attract the audience of, right? So I think that's what I'm going to do going forward is do what I can do to the best of my ability, be as true as I can to myself, and that's it. That's what I can do, And if someone wants to watch that, they can. If someone doesn't want to watch that, then don't. And again, if I'm doing the wrong thing, then hopefully people will let me know that I'm doing the wrong thing, and hopefully I'll see criticism, I'll see outrage, and hopefully I can do that. But I'm just gonna have to try and be as honest as I can. But just to go back to what you were speaking about a second ago about the collecting and the investing side of things, growing up and when I was collecting my cards and putting my collection together, especially in 2016 when I got into the grading aspect, one thing that I saw a lot of YouTubers and a lot of experts speak about is what you mentioned there, the trophy cards, the set cards, and the actual value that each of them hold. And I knew the whole way that trophy cards are going to go up the most. They're going to be the best place to put my money. I knew that, certain sets, certain cards in certain sets, especially first edition base, Typhlosion 17 before he was the hype he was, certain cards like that. But for me, I didn't care, all I wanted to do was complete my sets. So, I wasn't buying to have the most value in the future. Of course, I was hoping that my cards go up. I was hoping that they don't go down. They're not worth anything. I was hoping I was making a good financial decision, but I was just trying to complete my set. So I put all my focus and time into getting Neo Genesis, Gym Challenge, Gym Heroes, sets that I know are everywhere, especially in the UK. These are our first edition sets, so we had so many of them. Yeah. We had Jungle and Fossil, but that was like at the end of it. So Jungle and Fossil first edition is very rare for us, but maybe in the US it's the same, but Gym Challenge, Gym Heroes, Neo Genesis, first edition's everywhere. It's almost not first edition at that point in terms of the first edition print. But I would just go and collect the sets, So I think not everyone does buy or not everyone does purchase a card to hope that it goes up, a certain amount. I think they do buy it hoping that it's not going to go down. It's not going to be a bad decision. But I think not everyone's in it for the growth necessarily.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. And I think everyone is in it for, a lot of people I think are in it for both. Probably. Yeah. Adults. I think it'd be hard to find an adult who wasn't like, I hope my collection goes up in value. Just because we live in a world where money's important. And I think, and maybe I'm naive in that, and that there are a certain percentage that are able to sort of compartmentalize it. And part of that is because I am someone who's interested in almost the game of money and the game of like investing. And I've always been interested in like entrepreneurship and businesses and these types of things. It's like my mind works that way a lot. And so when I see things, I see business opportunities also. And then I choose, do I want to take that or don't I? And like the ethical implications of that. And I think definitely there are people who are going to be in anything that just don't take that approach to stuff, to maybe anything in their lives, and then particularly to something like Pokemon, that they just want to goof around and be silly and collect a little bit. I do think though it's a little weird that people who have that approach are so angry. Yeah, because it's sort of like, this is where I don't really buy some of it. I kind of think that there is a decent amount of just like jealousy and frustration and coveting other people's collections, and frustrating that they can't have the bigger collection.
Yeah.
Anger at the people who have the bigger collections, and that they kind of can jump onto this message and make it toxic. There shouldn't be any gatekeeping in this hobby. And you kind of have to adapt. This is an open hobby for everyone to be a part of. And I think that it's okay to criticize other people in the hobby, but I don't think it's not going to happen where you're like, only people like me are going to be in this hobby, and this hobby can only be for people like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the same time, I think it's healthy to be like, there are a bunch of different shareholders in the hobby, and no matter where you are, you should care about the kid who can't get the cards, or the parent who's been to like 10 stores.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I should care about the people who want my collection, who want to be where I'm at in the hobby, and are frustrated now that they can't get there, or that like feasibly they're not going to be able to get there because of all the increases in prices. And I should be not tone deaf to the frustrations and struggles, but also realize that like many of them probably could have been in the situation that I'm in if they had been more, if they had believed in it more, if they had taken the risk, these types of things.
Yeah, so, I mean, if I listened to other people telling me to, buy trophy cards, to buy this and that, I would have done so much better in terms of my personal collection. But I was ignorant to it. But am I at a point now where I don't regret that. I would do the exact same thing, because the cards I wanted to buy were the cards that I bought. But I think what your point there is saying, those people who are now complaining that, oh man, like I why didn't I get this card back then? Well, you could have, you could have got that card. You could have made those decisions, but you didn't, for whatever reason that may be. For mine, is different to other people's.
Yeah, and it may have been a really good reason. Like, you shouldn't be spending money on like most people shouldn't be spending too much money on Pokemon cards. And what's happened this year is silly and ridiculous. And
it's good. Yeah.
And no one could have expected it. And so putting lots and lots of money in Pokemon cards, like too much money beyond your budget, was an extremely risky move. And I think there's, just because it worked out doesn't mean that it was that smart for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's very, good point.
And it was smarter for a lot of people who probably didn't, because they put their money into their houses or paid off debt or did other sorts of things. And it's very understandable why you're frustrated, but that certainly is not Randolph's fault or Leonard's fault.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? And yet people are going to latch on to criticisms, and when they're angry, and just kind of want to take it out on people. And so I think that's the bad part of the video, is that the good part of the video is it started a conversation. The bad part of the video is that people are taking it in ways that Frosted Caribou didn't intend it to go.
Yeah.
And are taking it out on people who don't deserve it. And this idea of like, what is a true collector? Who should actually be here? What is it most important? And then really just taking off the responsibility of, not responsibility, but just being like aware that Pokemon just hasn't been able to print enough product, and that if Pokemon was able to print more product, some of this would be solved. Although it does seem, man, like there's just an endless amount of people willing to buy on these online things, and that's so
the demand in Pokemon is unreal. Well, the demand in everything right now is crazy. Whether it be Pokemon, whether it be, I don't know, I'm not sure if you're aware of the graphics card issue going on at the minute with the NVIDIA, graphics cards. They can't find the chip for the PlayStations, for the Xboxes, for certain things. The demand right now is insane. And that's because, the coronavirus, the pandemic. We're in a pandemic now where people are not at work. People actually do. And this is the thing. I don't know if you remember as well. You might have made some videos on the channel. When coronavirus hit, many of us were really worried what was going to happen with the hobby. Like, were our cars going to be now worthless? Are people now going to have no income and need to make money back? So are they going to sell their cards? Is the market going to be flooded? Is everything going to go down? That was the worry. And what happened is the complete opposite. Even before Logan Paul, before all this, what happened was the cards just boomed, and now it's probably a little bit easier to see why. It's because, people are off work, but they're still earning on furlough or on any schemes from the companies. They have government aids as well. Yep. They are not going to the cinema. They're not going to buy snacks. They have more money, so, and also time. They have more time to go and watch, Pokenomics. Now they can sit and watch a 2-hour video and learn more, you know what I'm saying? Whereas before they couldn't have that in their busy day. So that in itself is probably the reason why so many of these hobbies, and especially Pokemon, is in the position that it's in. And I think you are right in a sense. This is what I was trying to explain to people. When the supply does hit, and it, whether it's enough, we don't know, but we know it's coming. Like they the Pokemon company will be blind to not fix this, not because of the outrage, but for their own, to make more money, right? They can sell more. So from their point of view, that's why they at the end of the day want to print more. So if we did have endless amount of stock, and if we did have endless stores stocked up, would we still have scalpers? Yes. Would we still have people being dishonest, but we still would have them, but it would be less of the conversation, and they wouldn't pay them as much attention as we are now. So, are scalpers always going to exist? They will. They have done in every. And I mean, scalper's probably not the right phrase, really. Anyway, I think scalper in itself can be a negative term. Where what's the difference between a store and a scalper? Essentially, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same business practice. It's
short-term resellers, we could say.
Yeah. And is it wrong for someone to go into a store? And I have this a lot, right? On our store, someone will buy a box for retail and then sell it on eBay. There's no problem with that. Like a real person, there's no problem for someone to buy an ETV for Hidden Phase, wait for 2 months, and think, you know what, I value $80 more than I value that box. That's okay. The issue is people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, people going into a store, pushing, bruising each other, stealing. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. But in itself, just the change of value and expected value. It's and especially with a set like Hidden Face. I mean, I'm not sure if you've got much opinion on Hidden Face, but it's a good set. Like, it's in terms of modern retail, it's like probably one of the best sets you could get. So.
And collectors are clearing out these stores too. It's not just resellers. It's people who weren't able to get packs because they went into 4 other stores and then are clearing it out. So when you go into a store that's been cleared out, there's a decent chance it was cleared out by collectors too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and to enjoy it, to open it up to complete sets, and not to resell it. So a big issue is just that the Pokemon card company isn't printing any product, right? Yeah. Like, it's hard to quantify how much of it is the scalpers and the online box breakers and all these sorts of things. But there's plenty of frustration to go around. And I think it really comes down to patience. I think people making good quality content that maybe helps people figure out how to, if you're in that sort of line of creating content, help people find product, talk about patience. If you don't like something that a creator's doing, or you think that they're having a negative effect, reaching out to them in a polite way, making a comment on their video, and again, I think just don't watch their content after a while if they don't change. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure there's anything else, and understand at the end of the day, like, it's just Pokemon.
I think that's one thing that people are forgetting right now as well. It is just Pokemon. This is it's a luxury item, and I say luxury. I don't mean it to be worth so much money. I mean, I say luxury in terms of we don't need this, and no one needs this to survive. And I think those who are, again, treating it like it is, like you say, those who are putting their life savings into this to try and get a leg up in life, that's not what you should be doing. Make educated decisions. Sure, you use it as a hobby to if you want to earn a little bit of money as a hobby, then go for it. So, whereas then the issue is again, I'm responsible for this as well, because someone will watch me and then start the business and start the store and see me do really well in that. But that's because I'm in such a unique position and such a unique situation. Not everyone can do that. And I think I've influenced a lot of people, especially in the UK, to start stores now, who are then doing pre-orders of stock they can't get. It's things spiral. The
reality is, at least for a short period, there is incredible life-changing money in Pokemon this year, which is part of what's caused all of this. It's part of why you've gone so heavy into it. It's part of why so many people have gone so heavy into it, is that, and it's why all these booster box opening channels started, and people going on Facebook and doing like raffles, and like people have made a tremendous amounts of money. It's just not sustainable. And so just understanding the risks, and no one knows how long it's sustainable. It's the thing. Like, no one can predict the short term. But what people can say is that there has to be someone else to buy it. You can't. Things can only keep going up if there are more people willing to pay a higher and higher price for it, and eventually you run out of that line, and that's when prices come back down. And so, particularly for not rare items, there's just so many more of that item that you just need to find so many more people down the line, one after another, to keep buying it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so be careful out there, because at the end of the day, this is just Pokemon. It's not food and water, but people can become addicted to it, and people can lose huge sums of money and put themselves in really bad financial situations. And kids can miss out on
Yeah.
collecting and like a critical maybe collecting period with their parents. Like if I had kids and I couldn't find Pokemon cards anywhere, and I was driving from store to store and my kids were like begging me for them all the time, and I really wanted to do that with my kids, like I'm empathetic with that.
Yeah.
I'm not, or sympathetic is the word. I'm not that sympathetic with like adults, and I might get some hate for this, but like adults who really like Pokemon and they want to get the product. I'm kind of like, this hobby's gonna be around for 20 years. Wait a year or 6 months or maybe even 2 years. But and maybe that comes from the place of like, I just am not as into Pokemon as other people, which is totally fair. That some people, it's like, this is my only hobby. This is like the only thing that brings me joy in my life, and I don't have anything else. And then I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe like, could other cards games or other things related to this, or collecting like like different types of Pokemon merchandise that's cheaper, or watching just content where other people are doing it. It's a little hard for me, and maybe you can explain this to me, Randolph. Like, why do people, unless you're addicted to it, why do people have to open packs? Why can't they just take a break for a while and enjoy Pokemon and like just play the video games or do other? I'm just not sure. I don't really get it.
I think there's two sides of this. I think one is like, why do people open packs? I mean, people know that you can go and get a Charizard from Shining Fates for, I don't know how much it is on eBay, but $300, $400 on eBay. But they would spend $1,000, $2,000 trying to pack it, trying to get it in a pack. You know, this whole being this is what I used to enjoy. You know, I could have made a lot more money. I could have made more better decisions in my collecting, you know, career if I bought the card instead of trying to get the card. So when I would buy cards for my collection, I would always buy raw. I would never, like, I could buy a PSA 10 and save a lot of money to just get that, but I would always buy eBay to try and grade it myself, because I enjoyed the game of, you know, finding it raw on eBay, opening the tape off the card, you know, all this stuff, and then grading it myself, and then having it come back from PSA and check the grade. Oh, I've got a 9. I'll sell that one to try and get the 10 again. And I think that's that hustle, and that's not sure that's the right word. That journey of you know, getting the pack from the store, opening it up, getting the Charizard, then grading that, getting the 10 is so much more enjoyable for people than just getting the 10. I think that's a big part of it. That's an enjoyment factor
for some people.
So some people, and I think that's okay. And for someone like you might think that's bizarre. Why not just buy the card and save yourself time, effort, and also save yourself some money? But
I would rather open the pack, but with the amount that it costs me, it's not worth it, is my honest answer.
Yeah.
So it's
not I think,
you know what I mean? So it's like, I'd rather open the pack, but I definitely don't feel a compulsion to open the pack and pull every card. And I enjoy having the card, you know, a lot. It isn't just about opening. Whereas I think that there are people who actually, they don't even like the card that much. And it's really just about opening packs, any packs.
Yeah.
And then you have all the way in the middle, you know, everywhere in the middle where people lie. And I guess it's sort of like, you know, I just feel like if you are so addicted to this hobby, or you need this hobby so much, and this is going to sound very critical, but it's like, maybe that's a bit of a problem you have and not the influencer's problem, or you know, because it's like, there's so much to do. There's so many options. And I know it's particularly hard this year because of the pandemic, but don't overspend, you know? Like, and if you are overspending because you care about this hobby so much, or you feel so connected to this hobby, then I don't know, I'm a little concerned, because this isn't food and water. This isn't something you need. So I don't know.
Yeah. So in like Shining Fates, right? So Shining Fates is a widely underprinted set, and they've acknowledged that, and they've even said there'll be 4, 5, 6 waves that they'll deliver stock out, right? So people hear this, and they still go out and pay extortionate amounts from scalpers, but then complain that they're buying. Like, to stop scalpers, we just don't buy. You know what I'm saying? Don't buy the product. Wait then. But if you don't want to wait, then you're gonna have to pay the price. This is what I try and tell people a lot. If you don't want to wait, then you're gonna have to pay the that, and that's supply and demand, and people do profiteer, and people do use supply and demand as an excuse to charge extortionate prices, but it still exists. That supply and demand still does exist. So what I tell people is just wait. If you want shiny, I tell my brother this, I tell friends this, like, if you want shiny face, just wait, because there'll be a third wave, there'll be a fourth wave. And I mean, look at hidden face. Hidden face is still hard to get now, which is probably it's like a bit of a contradictory point I'm making now. Yeah. But it will get reprinted. Shiny face will get reprinted. It will be available again. So if you are that against paying the scalper prices or the well, it's not even scalper, it's the value, the market price on the eBay. If you're so against paying that, then you have to wait, or you can't have it both ways, really. But then I think the issue is as well, and to answer your question about why do people open so many packs, is the fear of missing out, the FOMO, right? People want what they can't have. And when PSA shuts, people want to go and get cards from PSA. When Shining Fates is sold out, people want Shining Fates because it's sold out, right? Whereas what then happens is when it levels out, we saw this in 2018, 2019, when Pokemon started to stagnate a little bit. You saw things were affordable, and things settled down. Things were kind of level for so many months, so many years. The problem is then, well, will they want it then? When this hype dies down and it starts to level off, will people still want it because it's not the cool thing? It's not that makes sense. My point is, look at Champions Path, right? Everyone wanted Champions Path from the get-go. People were paying so much for it. People were paying above retail for it. Now it's dropped in price so much because people have realized it's not a great set outside the Charizard. So it's like, now the hype's died down. No one wants the box, or some people don't want the box, So that's the issue as well. Is like people want what they can't have, and when they can have it, they don't want it anymore.
Yeah. I think that it's up to everyone out there to have personal responsibility, personal awareness of why they're buying things. And then it's up to the responsibility of all the influencers and sellers, just to kind of summarize everything, to be transparent, to also have that same awareness and provide that same transparency back, and not try to gaslight people, sort of predatory practices where you're trying to get them to think something or feel something that's going to benefit you financially, or the growth of your channel, those types of things.
Yeah, so, and I think let the product do the talking and as well. And this is why we speak about transparency. If you can't sell the product without lying, then go and find a different product, because the truth is there are sets out there that are great to do as box breaks. There are sets out there that work for the breaker and also work for the buyer. But then again, if it's worth it for the breaker, they would most likely just open it themselves, and not because it is all about making that profit. And it's a hard. What I would say is it's hard for us all. It's hard for the buyers, the sellers, the content creators. I would go with what you were saying earlier. I don't think many content creators out there are evil people. I don't think they're in this society where they have groups. I don't think they're evil people. They can make mistakes. Yes. Can they let greed fuel them without realizing that greed is fueling them? Yes. And that's why videos like Frost Carries are so good, because it opens a conversation, and it allows us all to question the people we're buying from, or question the people we're watching. But then again, I think at the same time, cancel culture is a really big problem, in my opinion, right now with everything online. Just the fact that someone can say something online or disagree with someone then means that everyone's going to go cancel that person and cut ties with that person and make their life awful for one thing they've done wrong. Is not the way to go about it, and that's what the audience do. So that's why when Frost Caribbean has the part in her video going at people, she might not mean it, she might not want that to happen, but that will be a byproduct of that, right?
Can you imagine treating a friendship like that? And some people may actually do this, but so you have a friend who's been a great loyal friend for years. Who has done hundreds of kind, loyal things to you, and then one day lets you down in like a pretty significant way, and you say, what a horrible person, let's cancel them from existence. Maybe people do act like that way out there, but that's not good. It's
not good.
That's not healthy. It's not helpful. And you have to let people make mistakes and be patient and figure things out, particularly when there's so much change happening all at once for everyone.
Yeah.
And treat people how you would like to be treated, and understand that we all misspeak and we all get taken out of like, you know, I had people after the Frosted Caribou interview take one thing I said out of a 2.5 hour conversation and frame the whole argument that was what I was saying. And
it'll happen here today, you know,
exactly.
and we have to accept that as creators, as people who speak and put that out there. We have to accept that. But I think mainly when we say things like this, I'm speaking to the audience. You know, it was never Frosted Carry's intention. I mean, it may not have been her intention to portray someone like me or other content creators in the light that others do, right? So it's not her intention to do that, but the people watching her or people watching me going back to her when I respond to her, they do that. So like, mainly when I do these videos, I'm speaking to the audience, you know, like people watching this, please like do your research, educate yourself as well. Like I can educate you, but do your research, you know, go on to watch Pokenomics, go and watch SM Pratt, watch everyone you can watch and take this information in before you speak and before you leave these comments, you know, and before you leave these negative things or say these negative things to people, because we're all trying. And some people out there are and some content creators are definitely pushing the line. They're definitely gone beyond the line. They are doing dishonest things, and that has to be that's their conscience. That's their conscience there to be able to keep doing what they want to do. Can we discredit them? Not, I don't think we can discredit them. We can discourage others from following that and from listening to that. We can't be the person to say, you know, like say A-Drive, for example, I think he's a great guy. He's a great dad to his daughter. He's a great content creator to the many people who watch him. Is he doing things that are a bit wrong at my perspective? Yes, but he might just not know, right? So let's not like grab the pitchforks. Let's try and maybe I need to reach out to him. Maybe I need to message him and say, look, like I think what you're doing right now is damaging the hobby. But then again, I personally, I don't want to be involved in some sort of argument. That's not my, you know, my job, my argument to have. But then again, maybe it is because I'm responsible for so many thousands of people online, you know?
Yeah. And I think that you'll continue to think about it. And so will
for sure.
Everyone else. You know, it's one of those things where it's not clear what to do.
But I don't think we should stop. That one thing I've been doing, I've been honestly contemplating, do I just stop doing Pokemon? Do I continue collecting? Do I continue doing what I do? But do I close my store down? Do I close my channel down and go back to music? I mean, and this is my main response to a lot of people is if I was in Pokemon for the money, if I was here for money, I would just go and do music. You know, there's so many more lucrative, record label deals I could take. I could go and do that, but I'm here for the community.
Here only for the money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because what you really want to do is you want to make money doing something that you really enjoy, which is what everyone
exactly.
wants to do. It's what I want to do too. And so I think that that's where you have to understand, you know, and I think that some people don't who are saying that anyone who's interested in money, there will be no Pokemon at all if there aren't any Pokemon businesses. There won't be Pokemon content creators if they're not making any money or getting anything from it, or there won't be any professional ones who produce really high quality because it takes them a lot of time and effort and they want to get paid for the work that they're doing on some level. But it doesn't mean that they hate, they love Pokemon. I'm a therapist. I could be making more money if I had gone a different route, but I'm still making a living and as a therapist.
And you're happy. Yeah.
So it's one of these, it's the same thing where it's like, we all want to make a living, but we all want to do something that we think is ethical, is helpful for the world. We all have selfish needs that we want to get met, but we also realize that we're only one person and there are billions of other people who care about them, and we don't want our needs to be put over theirs. Right. And so that's just what we're all in all the time. So, I guess just to like end it today, for today, and you know, we'll definitely keep the conversation going, and so we'll I guess my last statement, and then I'll give you sort of the last statement of the day, is just like patience. Think, you know, everyone take some time, make a plan for what you want to do with your channel, for me, you know, what you want to do as a collector, as an investor, what you want to do as a parent in terms of, do you want to steer them towards other things right now because Pokemon cards are too expensive and you don't want to feed into it? You know, make a plan, figure out how to deal with reality as best as possible, And for those who aren't doing what you'd like, if you can figure out something constructive, do it.
Yeah.
But there may not be that many constructive things to do. And in that case, you just have to accept that everything is always imperfect. So for you, it may be like, it isn't constructive for me to reach out to more people, and it isn't constructive for me to talk that much more about this. And for other people to respect that, because you're going to do what you think is actually best for yourself and for the hobby, and to not get into the space of like assuming negative things about you, that the reason you're not talking about it or the reason you're not confronting people is for your own selfish goals.
Yeah.
People also might not be talking about this because they don't think they can do any good, or they don't know exactly what to say. So yeah. So I guess I will end on that note. What any takeaways or summaries for you?
Well, I think you explained it very well there, and I agree with your points. I think I wish I could explain things as well as you could, and I think if I could, then I'd be able to, my videos would be a lot better received because I'd actually get what's in my head out there. But no, I do agree. I think saying,
I mean, you are the professional here, and you bring so much happiness, and I've had so many people who I've gotten to know just comment how much they like your content and like your personality. And I will do my best to provide some value in articulating things, but you are the one who
well,
really deserves.
I just like packs, man. Like, and I like cards. Like, I think a lot of the things as well. Someone will. When I watch other creators, and when I wanted to start creating content, I felt there was a gap as well for actual real honest creators out there. And I'll name names like Leon Hart. I think he's fantastic in what he does, but I don't think he's who you see on the channel. So I was like, I want to be someone who is always transparent and as much as I can be. And be who I am. And then you also get people who are like, oh, he still fakes his reactions. And I'm like, no, I just really love the card, I just get too excited with things. So I think people do like to see me because of my silliness and my weird quirks, but also because I do try at least to put the cards on the table. And I think one thing that I've been struggling with, especially recently, is like I said there, like, do I just stop then? Like if I do box breaks and I'm wrong for the hobby, if I stop doing box breaks, am I wrong for the hobby? So it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I don't think that's an excuse for anything, but I think if I believe in myself and what I do and what I think about the hobby and what I put out there, if I believe in that, then I should continue to do that and learn and continue to grow. I don't think I should just stop. I think that's worse because then it leaves a hole there, and these thoughts that I've got that I truly believe in are gone. And then it goes to the next person who's not going to have those thoughts and not going to be transparent. So I think, and that is a bit selfish of me, but at the end of the day, I'm still here I'm still here to do my job. I'm still here to actually also earn money, gain subscribers and grow the channel. So it's kind of like, I can't stop. I have to just be better.
Well, and you and I are mentors.
Yeah.
And so I think viewing it that way too, that you're mentoring 1,000 channels right now who look to you to figure out, how can I do something I really enjoy doing, which is like opening packs and hanging out with the community and talking about our love for Pokemon in a way that helps support my family and also is genuine and shares my love of it with other people. And so you trying to figure out how to do that in the public is mentoring other people who are going to come later who are trying to do that now. And so I think just like me, and I'm in a much smaller space and smaller niche with a lot less people who want to be me, I'm sure. But me doing what I'm doing, it's the same thing as mentoring, Scott Pratt mentoring me, in the sense of me seeing his content, me seeing Zach, Gem, and Pokemon's content, me seeing Alpha and Rudy's content, figuring out what I like that they did, and lots of things, and some things I didn't like about what they did, and how I want to be different or how I want to do something different than them. But I think that that's also great value, is that piece that so many people who are like the biggest fans of yours are starting channels. And these are guys
that's amazing.
And they look at you and they're like, yeah, like I love when he does that. And it's really inspired me to get out of my shell and be brave and put myself online. And a lot of people dealing with like social anxiety and feelings of like, putting themselves out there and all the criticisms you get back, and like you showing modeling how to handle that does so much good for so many people that's beyond the Pokemon specific thing. It's more of the content creation mentor or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why so many, I mean, the whole YouTube, it's, at least me growing up, it's different now with people like Logan Paul getting into it such late in the game of YouTube. But me growing up, it was all about YouTube, and I was very awkward socially. I was the quiet kid often. I was just, but YouTube gives me that platform to be able to get my point of view out there, and that's the same with so many other content creators. And also, yeah, we're here to inspire at the same time as we're here as a responsibility to the actual strength of the hobby. I think that's the important part. I mean, I'll often type in on YouTube just PSA return, right? I just want to see people get cards. So I'll type in PSA return. I'll watch the channel, and then I end up seeing them on Twitter, and they'll be like, "Oh, they're such a big fan of me," and I'm like, "What? I'm a fan of you," So I think it's really great to see the people that we're inspiring.
Yeah.
And because they will be better versions of us, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like you mentioned, you'll watch Gem and Pokemon, you'll watch Scott, you'll take the good things and that you think are good. You'll maybe get rid of the things you don't agree with, and then there's always going to be someone better coming through. So we have to inspire the younger generation, and that's also why we have to make sure that these packs are available for children, because if they're not, then in 20 years there's no market. If these are buying Ben 10 because they can't get Pokemon, then Pokemon's gone. And the only reason Pokemon's so big right now is because all the 25-year-olds are now 25. I think that's where you see all these all these streamers get into it as well, is because they now they can also open a pack and maybe get some money, or they can get a card that they love that's now worth. It's really exciting because it's their childhood.
It absolutely is. It combines so many things. And all of these guys so clearly, like Mizkif and all these guys so clearly love Nintendo and and know about this stuff, and you can just see them light up in a genuine way. And that's part of why it's so enjoyable to watch them, because it's not fake, it's not forced, it's not and it's why it's so cringy watching some things where it's like when it feels like it's like there's no joy in this, and it's and I think that we'll have to see where it all settles, but it's wonderful having you on the channel.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can talk for hours. I'm sure we could continue, but we have to draw it here at some point. I'm sure I'll be back. We'll have to get you on the podcast as well. The first edition podcast that we have with me and the Great Gem guys would be great. I know you speak with Connor quite a bit, or you at least have spoke with him.
Yeah, off and on.
He's a big fan of your channel.
Connor and Tom on the channel. Quite a bit earlier on. I really like both of them. I just think that they're I love what they're doing. I love their entrepreneurship and how they started that company, and that they're both just like nerds who love the same stuff I love. And I know they're a bit younger than me, but I admire them. I think that their work ethic and entrepreneurship, I think it's very cool that they created this, and they really did it and built it when Pokemon was not like this.
No.
So yeah, I should talk to them soon too, and maybe have them on the channel to give an update on just like how that whole experience has been with Great Gem and the explosion. I talk with Jake, a friend of mine, all the time. Great Gem US, right? They're doing very well, all of them, but it's stressful, as you can imagine, because thousands of cards just piling up. But get them on, and we'll get you on our show as well. And it's just great to talk to you. Definitely, man. All right. So thank you all to the viewers who have watched and stayed this whole time. For those who have, we really appreciate it. Definitely go subscribe and support Randolph. I think that you'll be doing this for a long time, and it'll be great to see what decisions you make over time, and just kind of grow what you're doing. And Pokemon's going to be here for a long time, and it's going to have ups and downs. And so I think it's just being patient. And
I'll say to you as well, if you ever see me doing something you don't agree on, please do reach out to me, because as we spoke about earlier, it's hard to see the comments who are being, who are there to have criticism or there to just troll and just, argue. So someone like yourself, I respect highly. So if you ever see me doing anything out of line, please do message me, because I'll be able to take yours a lot more serious than I can take others, So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Randolph, and we'll speak again
You
soon.
too. For sure. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Sure.